Hey, I'm Martin Gagel with Radius Research. It's Tuesday, April the 13th. We're talking with Rob Chase today, Executive Chairman and CFO of MediaValet, MVP on the Venture Exchange. I first got to know Rob when he was CFO of Absolute Software. That was 15 plus years ago when I was at Raymond James. That company now has got a market cap of almost $1 billion. Actually, Rob, I'm going to do a slight talk about early days of Absolute.
Yeah.
When my first job in like '98, Absolute was kicking around to go public at that point. They were looking for an RTO at a shell, and the corporate finance guy was working with they were talking where they're going to go public at 50 cents, and he's like, that's not a 50-cent stock, that's a 25-cent stock, or I don't remember exactly the numbers. I said, well, why is that? And he goes, it's the 25-cent stock. And that was probably, it didn't have valuation on it. It was just sort of the most honest, probably corporate finance valuation I've heard. It's just sort of gut feeling and went with it. That's how it typically goes anyways, but you throw up comp charts and everything. And now it's one of the big wins, almost $1 billion company. That's cool. Thank you for joining us. And why don't you tell us about your new venture, MediaValet?
Thank you, Martin. Great intro and lots of good stories from those days. But applying them here at MediaValet, and pretty excited to present through your format here. But I'll take you through a little intro on MediaValet here. Safe harbor statement obviously applies. Just quickly, again, MediaValet is an emerging leader in the digital asset management space, doing enterprise class digital asset management, 100% in the cloud, 100% software as a service business model. You know, we've got a 55% 5-year CAGR, which is the type of snowballing effect you expect from SaaS companies as we get to grow on off of our ARR, our annual recurring revenue. So we're always starting with a great spot, especially when we have near 100% net retention levels on our ARR. Now with over 300 customers, getting our that snowball, if you will, rolling nicely here at MediaValet. The technology's been built, been invested in over 10 years of development work by a world-class customer-focused R&D team, very, very customer-centric. You know, our moniker internally is that we care, and I think we show it to our customers in how we service and innovate to help them achieve the value of DAM, and hence our net retention rates around 100% of ARR as well. Very sticky as a result, win-win. Strong balance sheet. We now have $16 million in working cap, having raised over $42 million over those years of development. Over 60 employees now, headquartered in BC, and so building a nice business here. I'll just click on DAM here quickly. The digital asset management space is really there to support your global content strategy and digital marketing strategies. Ultimately in today's world, particularly as we're all sitting here doing Zoom interviews, the world has gone digital and it's gone remote. And if you're really going to reach out to your prospect customer base, your target addressable market, and convey your messages and branding to your constituents, you're going to need to have a solid digital strategy to do so. And achieving that can be a world of hell unless you have something like a DAM that can hold all of the digital content you create and help you to bring that directly through all of your marketing channels to reach its intended audience. IDC says that if you implement a digital asset management system, you will have an 85% reduction in the cost of your creative materials. The system can often pay for itself almost immediately just from that, but also a 25% increase in revenue as you're branding more consistently and more effectively. Faster to market with a consistent brand message gets you better market share. And also a reduction in risk of misuse of those assets, which is quite surprising in some scenarios where you're using third-party assets to market and materials. There will be a limited time that you're allowed to use them, after which you actually get fined for using them. So that can save companies a lot of money, making sure that never happens. And a DAM's pretty essential to that. So what we see in this market is growing rapidly. $1.2 billion was industry was Forrester's latest estimate from 2019, growing at 33%. So a very robust market, and indeed, we're seeing that's part of our 55% CAGR is because it's such a robust market. Maybe just comment with respect to COVID and the pandemic. Obviously, that's made us all go remote more, and it's just sped up the need for continuing with solid digital strategies, and as a result, long term, we believe that DAM's going to be a benefactor of this current trend. However, in the short term, obviously there's been some economic turmoil, which has meant our growth in our fiscal 2020 actually was 33%, as opposed to coming in below our 55% CAGR, and that's really what you see from the impact, if you will, of that sort of sluggish market we saw here in 2020 with COVID.
Rob,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Can you actually, what exactly is DAM, Digital Asset Management? Maybe just spend 1 or 2 minutes sort of, what does that actually do, or how do people use it?
Absolutely. It's really what it is a single source of the truth for all of the digital assets you create that ensures that they have a place to live, that they get memorialized, they get secured, they get triple redundancy around the world to make sure you never lose them. But also that they're approved properly, and they're at everyone's fingertips, easily searchable, easily shareable, easily connected to all of your different marketing tools. For example, your social media feed, being able to get access to all of your digital assets instantly within the DAM, to have the right assets at the right time through social media. It's going to take care of the resizing and all of the stuff that needs to happen to make sure that it can properly go through your social media feed. Or when you're building a PowerPoint or what have you, where are you going to get those assets that you're going to build these exciting PowerPoints from? In a normal scenario, and maybe I'll give you an example. We just recently won the Greater Toronto Airport Authority. We announced this deal in December. I mean, $156,000 deal for us. They have about 20 terabytes of digital media, and you could imagine there, it's got to appear on the up. It's got to appear throughout the airport, on placards, on the posters that are in the gangplanks. You name it. The branding goes everywhere, right? Imagine managing that world where these things got to be in so many different places, plus online, etc. 20 terabytes of digital media. They're managing with SharePoint, with Dropbox, with local servers. You can imagine kind of how complicated that becomes. And in fact, every little marketing tool that you have often has a tiny little DAM where you'll take some of that information and throw it there and throw it in another one and in another one. Pretty soon, marketing's doing nothing but just shuffling assets around and trying to find them, right? So they didn't have a DAM. We're changing their world, right? They're now on our MediaValet DAM. All of those assets are in one place, automatically being able to connect to where they need to go straight through the DAM. Whether that's CDN linking or that's directly integrated with a connector to those assets. So does that give you an idea of kind of what DAM's about?
Yeah, and it's a very sophisticated, like Google Photos or Dropbox, where like a lot of controls and so forth, but a very crude level, it's Google Photos, right?
Yeah, I think the interesting, parallel, right? And Google Photos being very much a personal thing. Imagine that you need to up the security for corporate regulatory reasons for your own personal stuff. Well, Google is not going to give you what you need. What if you need multiple people to access that and be able to search it and rate it and be able to find what they need with proper metadata, right? As opposed to trying to search through your silly library that you probably get lost in, right? So,
yeah.
So yes, you could take that as an example, and then just start thinking if you got 10,000 people accessing it, all the and then think about 20 different tools that need to access it as well, and all of a sudden, holy smokes, that is a massive management problem, and that's what we deal with.
All right, thank you. That's good.
And what we're seeing is, the industry analysts are saying this is truly becoming a must-have, part of your marketing stack. And in fact, I'd say that Gartner's even starting to step a little farther than that. Gartner, one of the industry analysts, and saying, not only is it an essential part of your marketing stack of tools, because the whole organization is going digital, and how you reach all of your employees and build your culture is also going all digital, really we need a DAM that is cross-functional across the entire organization. So your HRIS system, is going to have, photos of the great party you had once when you could get together. And those are now branding assets for the company. And today they just sit somewhere in the HRIS system, or maybe on someone's drive, and then they pull them in as they need them. All of that stuff should be in the DAM. It should be at everybody's fingertips. It should be searchable, secured, approved, etc. So, really, we see this trend pushing DAM out beyond the boundaries of just marketing, and we're seeing the early signs of that today. But the market could get really exciting if that would happen. So, and how we approach this market, which is, what's our moat, if you will, where do we go to be different? Really, what we're trying to do is provide an enterprise class DAM, a full enterprise use case, but we're trying to strip away all the complexities of traditional enterprise sales. So, we compete against, large vendors like, Adobe and OpenText, and they tend to have large, complicated asset management systems that require third-party implementation projects, long implementations, very expensive to deploy, very complex. Gartner's latest analysis of that market says that companies with over $1 billion in revenue, of those companies, they interviewed 400 or 500, and only 26% were actually happy with the adoption of their DAM system that they had in place. So, what you're seeing is that typical frustration with traditional enterprise. And whereas MediaValet is easy to stand up, easy to get going, you can make it as complex as you want. We have a full open API. You can connect it to everything in your organization if you want, but you don't have to. It can be very simple, and as a result, we've made DAM an enterprise class DAM accessible from single departments to small organizations, all the way up to multinationals, full organizational implementations. So our smallest customer right now is about 6,000 US a year. Our largest, 508,000 US a year. I mean, we can handle the complete spectrum of user requirements. The large one being, an NBC Universal type of customer. So. We scale hyper scalable. We're the fastest cloud DAM out there, the most secure, and really another thing that really sets us apart, besides how we tackle the market in terms of being enterprise class without the complexity, is we provide unlimited support and training end users. Right. So really, we want to make sure that the organization can adopt this across the entire organization, and when you have that, organizations are going to maximize their go-to-market digital strategy. They're going to optimize that. They're going to realize the most benefit out of DAM. We're going to help them with revenue. Maybe we can even beat the 25% increase in revenue that IDC says is available. But the idea is that if everybody can get the branding assets they need instantly, you can get to market faster with a more consistent brand message, with everyone in the company singing from the same hymn book, right? So ultimately, that's why we then provide unlimited support and users. I think that just to note, we also how our pricing works and how we expand is that we have many integrations with other marketing stack of tools, and we provide that out of the box in some cases. If we don't have them, you can build it yourself with our API, but that enables us to totally plug into that marketing stack of tools and unlock the value. Someone was just asking about how we would tie in with the Hootsuite. So when you have our Hootsuite integration, for example, if you're in Hootsuite and you're wanting to do a social media post, when you search the library for what you're going to post, you would actually be searching the MediaValet DAM without leaving Hootsuite. You don't even know you're there. You find the most relevant assets. Depends on how your company has set it up, but it might be they even have a folder that's specifically for the the latest social media feed materials. But in any event, whatever you're getting, is approved and authorized. And as soon as you click on it to bring it into your social media feed, it resizes that asset instantly to the size to optimize for what you're posting in. So, it makes you able to search the dam with never even knowing you're there. We become part of the day-to-day effort that these companies do. And as a result, we become extremely sticky and provide high value to our customer. And ultimately, that's part of our path. We'll start with core dam when we sell to a customer. And that'll cover the size of their library, the bandwidth they have, what the basic features are. And then as you go up the enterprise use case model to a larger and larger organization, you step up in packages that have more features and more size and more bandwidth, et cetera. And so really that determines the core starting point. But then we're going to add on things depending on the use case. Creative Spaces is our unique offering to bring in the creative operations teams and enable the work in process digital asset management work in process assets to come into digital assets management, which is traditionally finished goods. Again, giving the company control of all those assets, make sure they never lose those, and integrate with their creative operations team. In any event, that'll be a $5,000 setup, and then plus a per seat fee to add on, for example. And we've got many of these type of additional features that differentiate us and create add-on value to grow our customer base.
Rob, sorry, just on that slide, at the bottom here at 7% expansion. So that's typically if you add a $10,000 a year or a client, then on average they grow by 7% a year as they add on new features and users or storage or whatever the expansion is.
Yeah, of course it's going across the entire customer base, but so really opening ARR is the metric to use. So say if we started with $10 million of opening ARR, we'd expect $700,000 of upsell and expansion in the year. That's been our historic kind of just organic growth rate. In 2020, I'm glad you clicked on this, because in 2020, we added a customer success team. So prior to that is the evolution of a SaaS company. First, your logos, go. And then eventually recurring revenue comes big enough that you need to add a customer success team to go and maintain that customer base to optimize it. So in our case, we started to add that customer success team in 2020, and their role now is to make sure not only that we maximize retention of existing customers by ensuring that they're fully adopting the value of DAM, but also we actually intentfully try to find and earn the right to upsell them for expansion. So, with that in place, hopefully over time we'll get to exceed the 7% that we've seen in the past. And really this slide is meant to talk. Here's some of the assets and tools that we would use to do just that.
All right.
Good. And it's on that customer side, over 300 customers now, good geographical representation. We're all based in Vancouver today. We do inside sales, direct to market. And really, we're bringing in customers from around the world through our global marketing initiative, focused at really our ideal customer profile, which is our marketing communications teams in any organization. So consequently, our customer base, there is no single really industry that stands out as, hey, this is the industry to focus on. I mean, we have tourism, we have we have parks, we have manufacturers, we have retail, we have the Raptors, so we have all these different types of organizations that really the key thing isn't so much the industry, the key thing is marketing and communication teams wherever they may be. And what we're seeing as we continually develop the product and focus on our enterprise message is, we keep increasing our average customer size. So up 36% from 2018 and up 13% from 2019. And as I mentioned, our customer base ranges from US 6,000 a year to 508,000. So we're really happy there. And just down to the bottom here, net retention was 100% in 2019. It was 97% in 2020. Probably a good point here to make a little mention about what happened in 2020. Again, we grew our ARR by 33%, which is great. I would have liked to have grown faster personally, but it was tough in a COVID climate. So what impacted us, what we saw was, customers took a little longer to make their buy decisions. A lot of them were uncertain about, what the process was now even. So, we had announced one of the deals we announced for September, closed on September 30th, is a company called Sapem out of Northern Italy. Well, Northern Italy was hit pretty hard by COVID last March, as you know. And, that contract was on the CEO's desk for signing on March 31st. And it ended up being signed September 30th. 6 months later, right? So that's an unusual sales cycle, to say the least. So what you're seeing is, 33%. Why would I have expected more? Well, our sales cycle went from below 90 days to 125 plus. So, that's really the key impact of COVID on acquisition. Also, what we saw is we actually had a banner year for large customers in 2020. So over $100,000 a year accounts were up 44%. It was, over top of 2019, which was a banner year. And so really interesting to note, right, in the COVID cycle, because customers that are well established, they're saying we need to get ready for the future. And to get ready for the future, we have to have a sound digital strategy. And if we're going to have a sound digital strategy, we need DAM, right? So they've set the tone. They've said during COVID, it's so important that we're even going to do DAM now, right? That's how important DAM is. So, but what you saw below those larger opportunities was, of course, these customers like, maybe the Sapem example I gave, where they're, a little more uncertain about how they want to invest in this cycle. But as they come back, and we've seen it improve every quarter through the year from an acquisition perspective after Q1 last year, every quarter has improved. But as they come back, we believe that together with Gartner types and Forrester saying, hey, DAMs must have, and the larger organizations getting going saying, yeah, DAMs must have, then I think we'll see those organizations below that as they start to come in and feel more confident building their digital strategies out, that they will also see DAM as that need. And so, so I think that ultimately, maybe a short-term pain in 2020 from that issue, but longer-term value for the industry overall. And likewise, same things happened with existing customers. So starting in our second quarter last year, we had our net retention rate start to decline on elevated churn because you had customers in the tourism industry and transportation, travel that were all of a sudden having zero business. So, I think that naturally we saw elevated churn from that. In the industry, churn for SaaS industry generally went from 10% gross churn in 2019 to about 13.8% in 2020, according to KeyBank Capital Markets annual survey. And happy to report that we've been below 10% for both those years. So despite the COVID impact on customers and naturally losing some or accelerating loss, I think we fared fairly well. Talks to the stickiness of our offering, but also bodes well for the future as now we should have a stronger customer base as we head. This Q1's the end of the COVID cycle, 1 year of a cycle in it, so we should have had the elevated churn all dealt with at the end of this quarter. And going into our Q2 here, we should see a big improvement in overall that those elevated churn levels should now settle out and get back to normal for us. I think that's kind of maybe most of the slides we wanted to touch on.
Sure. All right.
I guess the one other thing to focus on here also is that because of the experience we've had this year, because of the capital situation we're in with $16 million of working capital at the end of the year, we're in a position to invest in growing our presence in the DAM market and expanding our overall market opportunity. So we're leaning in R&D, we're leaning in customer support, we're leaning in sales and marketing. And we're pretty excited to be in a position to do that again here. What this graph is showing you, the gray here in these bar charts, is showing you our total spend for the fiscal year. You can see we had a nice step up in 2020 as we did a step investment after reaching cash positive levels of operations in 2019. We invested to grow. COVID kind of hindered that growth a little bit, yet still 33% growth in our billings here. And what's important is this little dot here shows you our run rate of billings at the end of the year. Both years getting to a cash positive run rate. You know, we didn't quite achieve it in 2020, the 2019 closing, again, because of the issues we spoke about. But now we've got a much lower bar here to hurdle over. So, you know, feel very confident that if we were to hold spend where it is, we'd be profitable in 2021. However, as I mentioned, you know, that's great, but we want to be a much bigger company when we're profitable. So we'll lean in, double down to the best we can on our investment levels, and continue to roll out our strategy to become a leader in DAM. And very grateful for that opportunity. Investing during a slower down cycle with COVID is the perfect time to be leaning in. So very excited about that. And that's what we're up to right now, growing our headcount, growing our presence in the industry.
Talking with the OpEx and billings and so forth, and you're not trying to be a profitable company right now, you're trying to grow. Is your basic like sort of burn strategy to be kind of roughly neutral, or like are you budgeting every year we're gonna burn 100 or 100 grand or $500,000 or $1 million? Is there sort of how are you budgeting that, or sort of
so
that?
There's a direct correlation between the investments that you do and how big of a business that you can grow. And you know, if you look at a Docebo, for example, in 2018 to 19, I think it was, they tripled their R&D spend, went from 4 million to 11 million, almost 12 million in 1 year. Right? I mean, that's a massive increase. And not to say that we would do that, we would love to maybe even double R&D, but if we can. But the point is that you know, you get kind of down to a model eventually. If we, you know, here's the KeyBank Capital Markets survey, right? So companies over 75 million US in sales in the SaaS industry, generally about an 80% margin, gross margin. You've got a, you know, 35% sales and marketing, 27% R&D. You know, you got to skate to where the puck is going, right? So if you want to be 50 million, right, and you use this 27%, call it 30, just for ease of calculation. If you want to be 50 million, the faster we can spend 15 million in R&D, the faster we're going to make 50 a reality. And so that's where we are, is we're looking at, we're not so worried about today. What we want to make sure of is that A, the market thesis is intact. B, that we're able to continue to deepen our moat so we can differentiate and win more of the market share that's available. And C, that we don't run out of capital when we do it. So, you know, that is the critical thing for us. Critical because, you know, yours truly owns a bunch of the company, and so does the rest of the team, 31% owned by insiders. You know, we can't afford to be diluting the company along the way. Because we ran out of capital. So really the investment thesis or the strategy, while there's this great growth opportunity, is how fast can we spend without needing capital? And the burn will be what the burn will be. But at the end of the day, as long as we can get cash positive on the capital that we have, we're happy today making a step investment to unlock that future opportunity. So that's really the focus, if that makes sense.
Yep. Are you able to, like, obviously you're trying to balance that, grow as fast as you can to keep growing. Is there sort of a number that people should kind of expect of your quarterly burn or annual burn, or? I
mean, obviously we don't give guidance, but you know, as I mentioned, we'd be happy if we could double R&D spend.
Okay.
Right.
And so, is that the biggest lever? Is it R&D spend or your sales and marketing that's going to drive it the most, or a combination, like sort of 50-50 between R&D and sales?
Yeah, over time we'll get those balanced, and likely eventually more in weight of sales and marketing. But you know, at first you got to over invest, overweight in R&D, and then catch up in sales and marketing. So what we'll be doing, we'll be leaning into sales and marketing too. Like if we can double R&D, maybe we'll do 60% increase in sales and marketing, for example, kind of thing, right? But eventually then R&D investment's going to slow and sales is going to be at a faster rate. But the determining factor for us on that, when we look at our sort of go-to-market strategy, that is, when did the salespeople reach capacity? Right. So, if you look at the inside periodic table of SaaS, an inside salesperson should be able to do 600 to 750 US of new business a year in a good run SaaS company. And we reached that level in 2019. Okay. In 2020 with COVID, we fell a bit below that. We'll inch back up this year, but we're expanding the sales team. We now have 8. In 2019, we had 4. Right. So, as those people get into that band, right, inside capital partners band, now they're near capacity. Now we have the room to add some more. So it's going to be determined more on how fast we can get them to that. And the R&D investment is going to impact their win rates, their opportunity that they see, so that we can get them there faster. And so that'll really determine when we do another jump, if you will, in sales and marketing.
All right. And on the R&D is, like, I'm sure a lot of what you're spending money on is very technical stuff, but can you talk broadly kind of what your roadmap is, what kind of features, or I'm not in the world of DAM, so I'm not too sure what types of things.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those things, and back all the way to your comment regarding Google Photos. It's when you just start to think about high level, you think that sounds pretty easy, right? It doesn't sound too hard. When you get into these things, especially if you want to be enterprise class, you start to realize, oh man, this is complex, right? There is a lot to this. I mean, there is the speed of your search. There's Boolean search. There's visual search. There's, metadata search. There's artificial intelligence applied to all of these things. There's video as well as audio, as well as pictures and GIFs and all that sort of stuff. So how do we attend to all of those? How do you edit inside them? In all of these, and then how do you distribute them better? So branded portals we talk about here, that's one we added in 2020, for example, that enables a customer to share all of their materials branded to their customer's name, for example, right? So, if you're selling, I don't know, you signed up a school and you do all of their, all their graduation stuff or whatever, right? So, well, how do you give a portal that shows all of that stuff to all of those people the students that would be buying it, but be in the brand name of the school, right? So that's kind of the concept of branded portals, and being able to see, you get the idea, you get to open DAM entirely to the world. So all of those assets are easily shared and controlled, one place to change them, fix them, shut them down, whatever needs to happen with them, and swap them out. Instantly, the rest of the world pulls from that, right? So
I'm just thinking, because my daughter graduated from high school last year and another one this year, is like they get their grad photos where you'd have a portal, like you can buy, only certain people from a school can see their photos, and then you can pick and choose and kind of have an e-commerce site, maybe that kind of a thing. Or
yeah, you'll want to tie all that stuff together, right? So e-commerce site's its own thing, but it pulls assets from somewhere,
yeah,
to look at, right? It gives you a 360-degree view, right? So Canadian Tire, if you go on their e-com site, those assets are going to be pulled from us, right? So it's all of these interconnectivities are really important. And we're actually starting to lean a little more into our API tools, because we've got a very robust set of tools, but we'll start building out the standardized developer kits around some of these features and things, because we just can't build every single integration possible, right? If you look back here, for example, we built the Hootsuite integration, but this sprinkler one was actually built by a customer using our API. And likewise, Wrike, who's, again, we're, leaning in a little bit more there from a partnership go-to-market perspective. They've been our best partner to date. And part of why they've been such a good partner is we have a synergistic fit between our two offerings. They're a marketing workflow management, and we're the DAM piece, right? So they went to market to find a DAM to work with because of the importance that it plays in workflow, and they chose us. They built that integration using our API. We're now leaning in to improve that even more and build upon that, because we actually see, while they refer a bunch of customers to us, and 10% of our business last year actually came through referrals from partners, we actually got another 30% from influence. Customers will come to us saying, hey, we use Wrike. We saw you have this great integration. You're on the top of the list for the DAM, for our DAM vendor, right? And they'll select us for that reason quite often. So we want to keep building out these things and leaning into some of these integrations, again, giving us more add-on modules, lean into differentiating on our artificial intelligence and audio visual, lean in on our creative spaces, these top 4 bullets here, but then also lean in on more integrations with these like examples of Wrike that can help differentiate us and help build a pre-integrated stack of marketing tools for organizations to leverage.
All right, I'd like to talk about the competition a little bit. You've got some very large competitors out there, and you talked about they've got some sort of typical enterprise
complexities.
Systems. They're not cloud-based; they're running on servers and that. I know. I guess I've been in the investment industry. To me, it feels like, well, isn't everyone on the cloud at this point? What are their cloud offerings, or do they have sort of a strategy moving their server-based systems to cloud-based systems? And I guess sort of, since we're talking about this, what is the penetration rate like? Do all bigger companies have DAMs right now, or is there still a wide open market for you to take, or do you have to steal it from other competitors?
Yeah, great question. So let's first deal with the market. So first of all, the market itself, and I took you through the example, the GTAA in December, it was greenfield, right? So probably about 85% of the business we see is greenfield. It's customers that have tried to solve this problem with putting their fingers in a bunch of dikes, and eventually their head blows up and they're like, we need a dam, right? So greenfield is the biggest piece. But there's also market share to steal, right? So people that are frustrated with their dam, the complex situation, it really isn't a cloud versus an on-prem argument fully. I mean, to some extent, yes, that there are a bunch that are on-prem and complex and that, but there's also those same types of vendors when they port to the cloud, they bring all their complexity with it. So just because you're cloud doesn't mean you're simple, right? So basically, it's still the same paradigm. It is your traditional enterprise model, either on-prem or cloud, right? Versus your more new age cloud model, cloud first, which we've built to be enterprise yet simple to use. Our competitors down to the left of us tend to be your traditional, SMB market offerings, more of a collection of features that are simple to use, but aren't enterprise class, right? Don't have the scale, don't have the speed, don't have the security, the redundancy, the searchability, the same enterprise class type of features. So when we build the same features, ours is built to enterprise class, theirs is built to SMB class. So customers, if they know that they're going to be relying more and more on the high value and high volume digital assets, they're going to lean to us versus those SMB providers, even though we might be a little more expensive. Typically, we're more expensive at the large deal size, not at the small deal size. So we can win in the SMB market versus them, and we can win in the upper end of the market versus the large enterprise, traditional enterprise ones, because we could pick off a division, for example. You don't have to do a whole organization, so we get going faster that way too. Or B, just because, again, we remove the complexity. So I mentioned NBC Universal earlier. They're our largest customer. That was head to head against Adobe. What we've seen in our competitive data is we win 3 out of 4 versus Adobe. So and some of those, we announced one for Crunchyroll and Funimation recently, and animation companies back in the summer. And they had a dam in place, right? And so that was a replacement, winning against an incumbent. So we have both of those scenarios happening. What I'll also point out too is a lot of these larger organizations will have 7 or 8, or maybe they even have 10 dams, right? So they've got a whole bunch of other departments that put these other dams in, and people have tried to solve this problem many different ways. And so really, it'll also often be an opportunity to roll all that up into, truly the single source of the truth. and so that experience also happens in DAM.
All right. You are very sort of tightly aligned with Microsoft in the Azure cloud. I don't think you really mentioned that too much on this. You mentioned, I guess, your redundancy in 3 servers around the world. Could you just talk about that alignment and what it means working with Microsoft? Does that give you benefits, or why not go to AWS? Or
so great comment, and I think again, this is just like enterprise cloud versus enterprise on-prem traditional complexities. Again, there's always nuances. So when we say we work with Microsoft Azure and are built on Microsoft Azure, we actually took the decision when we started this company. David and Jean, our CEO and CTO, took the decision that they would build on Microsoft Azure. Platform as a service, meaning they are actually developing right in the Microsoft cloud. So when you develop, you could build it's .NET, right? But you could build .NET in your garage, right? Or you could build .NET in the Microsoft Azure cloud. And so they went straight to the cloud. So all of our development happens live right in the same environment where our product is actually made available to customers, right? So we're in a live production environment. And we develop right inside the cloud. What nuances are in this are very interesting, because that actually gives us the additional speed. That gives us hyper scalability too. Our offering is completely elastic. Okay, so if you're a customer, you just all of a sudden have this massive library you want to add in, you just chuck it in, right? It just sucks it up and your blob expands, right? It's completely elastic. As opposed to if we were on AWS or even Microsoft Azure in infrastructure as a service, so just build in our garage and put it in the cloud. That's your infrastructure as a service. We wouldn't have that same speed. We wouldn't have that infinite scalability, right? So in addition, we're in already a more secure moat to begin with now, right? Because we're right inside that Microsoft cloud. So all the security wrapped around it, we benefit from. In addition, we have to still build in a secure fashion. But we also, when we go to add new features, it's really interesting, is if you look at artificial intelligence, while one of our competitors maybe goes out to market to find someone to work with and then checks compatibility and has to do some big project, we just selected Microsoft, and usually they're going to build best of breed. And instead of now wondering about compatibility, we have instant compatibility. We just start working on how do we add value, because artificial intelligence is interesting, but it's only if you can truly make it relevant to DAM that it becomes interesting. So we've expanded ours. We provide guided artificial intelligence, we call it, which, if we won Verizon a couple of years ago against a competitor, and they were just about to buy the competitor, but a partner brought us in last minute. And, when we showed them our guided artificial intelligence, it caused them to change vendors immediately, because what we were able to do was teach, artificial intelligence to be able to tell you, hey, this is a tree, this is a person building whatever, these colors are represented. That's your basics. But we were able to teach it to identify an iPhone 8 versus an iPhone 10 versus a Samsung Galaxy versus a Google. And so we were able to run their videos through and actually identify where all of these different types of handsets appeared. So they would never run the risk of advertising something for iPhone 10 that had an iPhone 8 in it, or even worse, a Samsung Galaxy, right? I mean, they're going to hear about it big time, right? So, so that ability, that differentiated ability, was because we didn't have to spend time thinking about compatibility. We didn't have to think about which vendor to choose and all that sort of stuff. We just got going on figuring how could we make this truly valuable to DAM. So yes, that's some of the advantages we have of being built fully in the PaaS, platform as a service. And to my knowledge, we are the only DAM that's been built this way.
Oh, okay. Because I'm just thinking it was announced yesterday or so, Microsoft buying Nuance Technologies, which is voice recognition, artificial intelligence. So I'm guessing that they're probably going to build that into their Azure cloud technology, and then you would have access to whatever there is an audio track, and then all of a sudden you could get a transcript on it because they can translate that into text or whatever other features they add. Is that kind of?
Absolutely. That becomes a kernel that we can then draw upon and use that to pull all of that artificial intelligence information into DAM and attach it to the right assets so that it can be searched properly and used properly. Absolutely. So yeah, very exciting when they make moves like that.
All right. Um, I'm thinking like with COVID over the last year, that slowed adoption down, but in the longer term, that is probably like Amazon and so forth, an accelerator where people are like working from home and whatever, and you just need your digital assets wherever the heck you are.
Yeah, what we're doing right now, by the way, is EVCM, right? Enterprise Video Content Management is streaming video, right? If we want to preserve this and save this in a DAM somewhere, that's a different area of DAM, right? So traditional DAM, just your finished stagnant goods, right?
Yeah.
Then you've got MAM, which is media asset management, which moves into the actual video management. And you've got creative asset management we talked about with our creative spaces. And then you've got this EVCM as another component. Those are all peripheral parts of DAM. And we're expanding our target addressable market by going into each of those, right? Now, what's happening, and that's part of our leaning in on our R&D. And what's happening in the market, of course, is everybody needs that stuff more, right? This is how we're going to communicate with our customers and our constituents and our employees and all that stuff, right? So we need to, this is the hot new area of DAM, and it's one we'd already been leaning into. So I think we're advanced ahead there. So ultimately, what we see, COVID, pandemic, meaning, hey, we're all work from anywhere now. That means you need to have a good digital strategy. That means you need DAM. So long term, DAM's becoming more critical in our view, and we think it's a net benefactor. For us, what happened specifically, Q1 last year, our acquisition business was trucking along pretty good. Then March hit and everything went away. I told you about the SAPM contract, right? 6 months later, it gets signed. And so we had our worst quarter from an acquisition perspective in 2 years or 3 years. Is terrible, right? Every quarter since, so Q2, Q3, Q4, our acquisition business, so new customer wins, have been on the increase and performance metrics improving. So our CAC ratio, cost of customer acquisition, right, went from 0.81 in 2019 to $1.25 in 2020. So for every $1.25 we spent, we brought in a new customer. Whereas last year, 2019, for every 81 cents we spent, we brought in $1 of new business, right? That's recurring revenue. It'll be with us for 10 plus years. I mean, it's a phenomenal metric because it's an exciting market. But again, it slowed. In fact, in Q1, it was over $1.50, right? So really we saw that come down to the $1.25 level. By Q4 was $1.15, and so $1.25 for the year. Anyway, so what we saw throughout the year was an improving acquisition core. Each quarter, the headwind abated a little more. People got going, and as I mentioned earlier, it was that over $100,000 account level that really, took off for us. Then the next piece is what happened to existing customers. And in Q1 last year, existing customers were saved the hassle because all renewals were billed by the time COVID hit, right? And so, and in fact, we also expanded one of our customers by $190,000 Canadian. So we had a massive expansion quarter Q1 last year. This is now Q1 21. What we saw Q2, 2020 was all of a sudden expansion. I mean, net retention numbers started coming down with expanded elevated churn, right? As I told you, a lot of customers maybe weren't viable, or just trying to cut all costs they possibly could. So, Q2, 3, 4, we saw headwinds with that. Q1 2021, that'll be our last quarter, marking a year, a full cycle. So those customers in travel and in tourism obviously are cutting back. And so we've seen those now work their way through and out of our system by the end of Q1 here. So we'll go from Q1 last year, an expansion quarter, to Q1 this year, a net churn quarter, right? So that's kind of, but we believe that now we're through that 1 year, and we'll see the cycle get back to normal here starting in Q2. as we go forward. So excited to have that behind us, but that's the short term, if you will, impact of COVID was, a slowdown in acquisition that's been improving every quarter, an increase in churn, and that's been declining every quarter. And now we'll be back to normal here for Q2 2021.
All right. Well, we're coming up to an hour here. I'm kind of running out of questions. Is there been a lot of M&A in the space, or guys getting taken out, or is there like M&A in your plans, buying up, I don't know, maybe some other technologies to expand your market or accelerate your growth?
It's a great question. So first one, or questions. First one on acquisition in the space. There has been Smartsheets bought Brandfolder, which is in both SMB focused organizations. That was back in August. You had Adobe by WorkFront. So workflow company. Adobe does DAM as well as their full Creative Cloud, obviously. But for us, that's pretty exciting because that parallels our both of those acquisitions actually parallel our relationship with Wrike. Wrike being a marketing workflow organization, and as I said, our most synergistic partner. They also are. Our partnership that we have is similar to the combinations that those two acquisitions, result in, right? We didn't need to do an acquisition to get there, which is great. But Wrike was just bought by Citrix, which is very interesting. That was about 18 times trailing revenue by the looks of things. And again, we really think that's interesting because Citrix is your traditional IT company, whereas Wrike is, again, marketing workflow. So I talked to earlier that Gartner's now talking about DAM needing to maybe be cross-foundational layer, not just a marketing stack layer. And so, that might be, again, another marker we're looking at as potential indication that may indeed be happening. So there's been good acquisition activity. In terms of our view on acquisition, we've got a massive organic opportunity that we cannot lose sight of. And this year we're adding some bench strength to the team as well. And as we do that, and with the capital we have, there are some smaller DAM vendors and things that we're starting to kick some tires on. So, we may be able to layer in some inorganic growth on top, which would be very exciting if we can find things that fit our need, whether that be, a DAM vendor maybe that's got a on-prem and, is sort of constrained from a growth perspective and we can convert. Maybe there's something in that arena, but also there are some interesting add-ons and features within DAM that maybe we can leap ahead with an acquisition. So we'll keep our eyes open opportunistically on that. But again, as that particularly as we build out our bench strength on the team. But again, really the organic execution is obviously paramount at the moment.
So buying an on-prem DAM company, you're essentially buying their client list, and then presumably you're their current vendor, and it'd be easier to transition them over onto your cloud system. Is that the basic premise?
Basic premise. I think if you sort of dig in a little deeper, oftentimes the on-prem solutions might have some interesting customizations or nuanced features that cloud doesn't yet have that might help us differentiate a bit for those use cases as well. So, hopefully you'll get some technology advancement also, but again, also an acqui-hire strategy. So as we're leaning in here, think about doubling R&D, for example, that implies that you can find the people. So, there might also be opportunity to use that to get some of those hires that you wanted, to get some already experienced DAM developers coming into your fold from an acquisition too. So there's more than just the customer rollout, but yeah, that's at the end of the day, that's probably the lion's share.
Digital asset management, digital assets are huge. They could be anything. Like, you're primarily focused on like photos and videos and that. You wouldn't be like a law firm's legal documents or contracts at a like documents, that kind of a thing, yeah. Would you, or is that an opportunity?
Documents is pretty well covered by the folks like OpenText and things, right, that have done document management for years. And it's an interesting nuance because, I mean, these are still documents at the end of the day, so there's no reason we can't do them. But the thing is, we're purpose-built to be able to handle all these really hard to manage assets. They're big. they don't have words in them often, or if they do, the words are a picture, not a word. There's a picture of a word, right? So, it's a different tool set to be able to manage and handle those. And also they connect, or are used differently, they're consumed differently, right? Because you're not going to go and attach a whole bunch of Word documents to your website.
Yeah.
Right. So, they're used completely differently. And that's why they are discrete markets.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we should wrap it up. Any final comments or anything we didn't hit upon that you want to highlight?
I think that's great. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about MediaValet and what we're up to. And we're just gonna do all we can to keep our CAGR going, and leaning in on this business and investing prudently, so that again, we don't get in a need capital situation. But and we'll keep managing ahead to go and unlock this opportunity, try and get a repeat of Absolute Software here.
All right, Rob. Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to chat today. That's great, and yeah, all the best. And let's maybe get an update in a few months as things progress.
Sounds great. Thank you, Martin. Have a great day.